Alright, this video is about quadrilateral. Quadrilateral, the root word or prefix is quad, therefore meaning four. And quadrilaterals are just shapes that have four sides, four vertices, meaning like the corners and stuff like that, the plural of vertex, remember? And two diagonals, I mean they cross twice, okay? Cool. So there are, how many? There's a lot of them, but there's only about 6 main ones you need to know because they come up all the time. There's a parallelogram, there's a square, rectangle, rhombus, a trapezoid, and I believe the last one is an isosceles trapezoid. Let me check. Yeah. So, first, a parallelogram. A parallelogram looks like this. Looks like this. This is a parallelogram. It's a badly drawn one, but you get the gist, right? Okay. So basically, it's a rectangle that's leaning on its side, okay? It's called a parallelogram because all the sides are, guess what, parallel to the opposite. So this side is parallel to this side. And this side is parallel to this side. I mean, they'll never cross, ever. Okay. Its properties include, the opposite sides are, this part is very important when it comes to the nitty-gritty teachers. Let's say we have properties, the opposite sides are parallel and congruent, opposite angles are congruent, diagonals bisect each other, and the sum of interior angles is 360 degrees. So, let's see. I believe I just said that, but opposite sides are congruent. That means they'll never cross. Alright, opposite angles are congruent. What that basically means is, so they're parallel, okay? That's how I drew it, okay? I'll draw a separate one and show you. Okay, so we have A, B, C, and D. Alright, over here. So that means AB, and this is how you label it, line AB is parallel to line CD. Same for line AC is parallel. I'm about to sneeze, I think. Oh, bless me. Thank me. I'm welcome. Alright. So we have line AB is parallel. That's how you label it. Line AB is parallel to line CD. Line AC is parallel to line BD. Parallel just is like, you know how parallel has 2 L's in it? Basically, you write those 2 L's, and that's how you show parallelism. Alright, and then the opposite, what is it? The opposite angles are congruent. So basically what that means is, I drew it like this. Now I'm about to label it for you. Angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B is congruent to angle C. Basically like this. Angle A is congruent to angle D, blah, blah. Angle B is congruent to angle C, blah, blah. Cool. Alright, so that's basically its properties, and there we go. Oh, and then I believe I will cover how to do the perimeter area of these later. Yes, I will. Okay, don't worry about that. Alright, next. Rectangle. Rectangle is the easiest shape. You learned it when you were like 8 or something like that. I don't know how old you are right now. But a rectangle is a quadrilateral with 4 right angles, and it is also a type of parallelogram. So a rectangle is a type of parallelogram. And if you think about it this way, a rectangle is a type of parallelogram, a rhombus is a type of rectangle, and a square is a type of rhombus. I believe that's correct. It might not be, but I believe somebody taught me that growing up. Don't worry about all these pills back there. Don't worry, those aren't mine. Rectangle. So we have a rectangle has 4 right angles. We remember what right angles are, hopefully. If you don't, go back a couple of videos and watch it. Let's see. Rectangle is a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. It is necessarily a parallelogram. That's how it's worded. Properties. Opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So that means in order for it to be a rectangle by definition, that means the opposite sides have to be congruent. Okay, so that means I'll write it again: A, B, C, D. A, B, line AB is congruent to line CD again, and line AC is congruent to line BD. Once more, AB, CD. Line AB is congruent to line CD. Line AC is congruent to line BD. Alright, and I'll cover, oh yes, and the opposite sides and diagonals. Oh, the diagonals are congruent. That means this. If we have a rectangle, like I said, badly drawn rectangle, but well, you get the gist. The diagonals are congruent and they bisect each other. So congruent means they are the same. Okay, so if I have A, B, C, D, if I have A, B, C, D, line AB is congruent to line AD. I'm sorry, CB and AD. Oh, when you're labeling a line or a line segment or array or whatever it is, typically you'll write it as the alphabet. So AB goes first, CD. But if you see something like I wrote it mistakenly, CB, don't worry about it. It's the exact same thing. It's just labeling. You won't get marked off of it unless your teacher's like really, really nitty gritty. Then good luck with that. But typically you want to write it alphabetically just to make everybody happy. Okay. Oh yes. So these diagonals are congruent. They're equal to one another. Okay. All four angles are equal and measure 90 degrees because it's a right angle all around. And let's go. Next section would be what are those? Rhombi. Rhombuses. Not an English name, but I could care less. Alright, let's see. Rhombus. A rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. So a rhombus looks like this. It's basically a parallelogram, but all the sides are equal. So it's like that. And the notation for showing that something is the sides are equal is this. There will be a line through all the line symbolizes, there we go, that all the sides are equal. Okay, so every side equals one another. Okay, it's like a square. Remember how a square is equal on all sides? Well, this is the same thing for a rhombus, only that it's like a square that's leaning. So that's how I know it. The properties of a rhombus: opposite sides are parallel because it's like a parallelogram. Opposite angles are congruent. Oh, kind of like the, let me show you. Kind of like the parallelogram. The opposite angles are congruent once again. If you don't get that, rewind it. But this is what it looks like. Like that, opposite angles are congruent. Diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so this means the diagonals are perpendicular. So if you have a rhombus like this, you have a rhombus like this, and we label it A, B, C, D, and then we draw diagonals on it. Well, guess what? They cross at exactly 90 degrees. That is a right angle right there. They cross. They're called It's called a perpendicular bisector. We covered it earlier, but excuse me. Basically, it's very easy to not easy to recognize, but when you have a rhombus, the diagonals are a perpendicular bisector. Just remember that. Okay, keep it in your notes. I hope you're taking notes. Okay. Um, remember, okay, that word was perpendicular bisector. Just want to make sure you got that word. Let's see, square. If you don't know what a square is, there's no hope for you. I'm just playing. All right, so a square is all sides are equal, or congruent, I should say. And oh, it also is a perpendicular bisector. That means they cross at a right angle. Okay. Sorry, the diagonals to be specific. And I believe that's it. Oh, as you know, it's a square, so that means that means the opposite angles are congruent because they're all 90-degree angles. Every angle is equal to each other. So, yeah. All right. I'll squeeze in trapezoid to this, and isosceles trapezoid to this video. So, typical trapezoid that we know isn't the actual trapezoid. The typical trapezoid we know is called an isosceles trapezoid. This is a trapezoid. Okay. Regular trapezoid, surprisingly. Isosceles trapezoid, this one right here. Okay. So, let's go over it real quick. This means... Oh, they have a special property for a regular trapezoid, not a isosceles trapezoid. Alright, so you see this? Okay, I'm going to explain that. And I'm going to explain this as well. Okay, so the properties of this basically say that trapezoid ABCD, that's what we just drew. I hope you drew it too. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay. Basically, trapezoid ABCD, the base is basically like a foundation. What, like, for example, if you have the base of your house, it's the bottom and the top, right? So AD is parallel to BC. That's the obvious one, right? So that means AC is parallel to BD. Okay. Cool. And let me draw that for you real quick. Line AC is parallel to line BD. Okay. Okay, and then we have what's called a altitude. Altitude is basically, let me find the definition for it. There it is. Altitude is, wow, I'm bad, I just lost it. Anyways, altitude is basically like the height of something. If you have a shape, like a two-dimensional shape, you have this, the height would be, there you go. Alright, so altitude, another word for height. The height would be line CG, height CG, AC, parallel BD. Okay. Now, what is this EF mess we're talking about, right? So that basically is saying that EF is the median in the middle. Okay. So EF is, there's a special formula for it, and when it comes to finding the length of it, okay? So EF, the one in the middle, is called the median, and the way to find that would be you add this side, add it to this side, and divide it by 2, and then that's how you find the length of it. So EF equals half of AC plus BD. There you go. And Oh, and then I'll read the rest to you. Let's see. Perimeter, you just add up all the sides. We'll get to that in a later video, though. Median, got that. Leg, got the... Oh. Alright, covered that. And then we have, last but not least, an isosceles trapezoid. Isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with congruent legs, one pair of parallel sides, and one pair of opposite congruent sides. That would distinguish it to be a isosceles trapezoid. The properties of it are the legs are congruent. So the legs would be... there we go. Legs are congruent. That means this equals that, is congruent to that. AB is parallel to CD. AB is parallel to CD. Okay. What else? The diagonals are congruent. That means this one here. They're congruent. That means they equal each other. Okay. So that also means line AD is congruent to line BC. Also, line AC is congruent to line BD. This is the longest video I've made. Okay, gotcha. And the angles here, A and B, those are congruent, and angles here, C and D, those are congruent as well. So this means angle A is congruent to angle B, angle C is congruent to angle D. Cool beans? Cool beans. Those are quadrilaterals. Our next section, guess what? Triangles. I'm out.